a shout out to my brother Nate Diaz, the man, the main man. They're the new king of this now, and it's right here, all right?
He's a ruthless badass and a real MMA gangster who would mercilessly beat you up in the octagon or even in a parking lot if you cross him. He's one of the realest fighters who doesn't care what anyone thinks or worries about consequences. In other words, he doesn't give a damn. But winning iconic fights by scoring unforgettable knockouts and submissions while taunting and trashing opponents, he cemented his status as one of the most exciting and entertaining fighters to watch.
Hey, I'm here to kill and be killed in Stockton, California. This little
He is Stockton's favorite son and Nick's younger brother. His name is Nate Diaz. This UFC badass did not become a superstar overnight, and despite being in his brother Nick's shadow for years, Nate finally built his own skyscraper and became one of the most lovable and enjoyable fighters to watch. We'll look closer at Nate's career and analyze how he became the megastar that nobody can deny.
You and Thompson need to man up and get with me and my boy right here, because this is our division. We gonna beat your that's what's up.
MMA Fighter Spot, man, that channel is fucking great.
The first time the MMA stage was introduced to the Diaz's brothers' uniqueness was almost 20 years ago in 2004. A young 22-year-old fighter named Robbie Lawler quickly made a statement of a serious contender by mercilessly knocking people out cold. He was scary, powerful, and keeping the fight on the feet was never a smart thing to do against him. Try telling that to Nick Diaz. When the two were scheduled to fight for the first time, everybody thought Nick would try to take the fight to the ground where he could implement his high-level jiu-jitsu credentials and neutralize Robbie's power. However, the Stockton native had different plans that night. The first moment the fight started, Nick went after Robbie with his hands wide open, yelling and taunting him in every possible way.
Guy. He looks over at Robbie, goes, "Stockton, motherfucker! Stockton!" And he starts walking around, "Stockton, mother..."
Let's recall these were the early 2000s. It was long before the god of trash talk, Chael Sonnen, appeared.
Spit it out, brother. You're putting everybody to sleep, man. I'm about to come down there and whip your ass in a second. Just to get people to
And when Conor McGregor brought it to another level.
Didn't even negotiate new money for himself. Imagine that. Look at everybody up here. They're all dressed like me. They're all trying to talk like me. They're all trying to be me. Everyone in the game wants this fight.
It was at a time when trash talking was still an enigma in the MMA, and Nick went out there slapping Lawler with a Stockton slap, calling him bitch and taunting him to a brawl, which is what happened. The Ruthless was new to such mind games and mental warfare. He could simply not anticipate any of that. Robbie was visibly bothered by all the provocation, and he went after Nick, unloading his bombs with bad intentions. However, the Stockton native was ready for that, and after slapping Robbie one last time, Nick delivered a perfect 1-2 combo that wobbled the opponent, which was the beginning of the end that sealed Robbie's first KO career loss. His wild behavior and entertaining fighting style resembling a street gangster turned Nick Diaz into a fan's favorite. On February 24, 2007, he went back and forth in a war against Takanori Gomi, finishing the Japanese fighter via gogoplata submission. The interesting thing about this fight was that Nick was high on weed when he fought Gomi, yet he dismantled him with his boxing before finishing him on the ground.
He tested positive for the Gomi fight, and they said there was so much weed in his system when they tested him that he had to be high when he was fighting. So what he did was just get ripped, just completely ripped, and then went out there and fought Takanori Gomi and just outboxed him.
The Stockton native kept climbing up to the top, becoming the Strikeforce welterweight champion in the process. In his second title defense against Evangelista Santos, Nate Diaz not only submitted the Brazilian in a spectacular way, but he went over the cage to his wife, showing her a middle finger while throwing the F-bomb at her. Just how crazy and unique one must be to do such a thing. How about his fight with Paul Daly? The Englishman was known for superior striking, and keeping the fight on the feet against him was the same thing as trying to wrestle a silverback gorilla. Challenge accepted. Nick Diaz went out there toe-to-toe against Daly, prevailing the storm before knocking him out to the shadow realm. All those gangster moments of taunting, mocking, wild behavior, and spectacular finishes made Nick Diaz a superstar like never before.
Hey, Carlos is a great guy. I'm happy for him and his family. I think I'm done with this MMA. It's been great out here. I've had a good career. You guys pay me way too much, but I don't think I'm gonna get enough to keep going in this.
And later, he handed his torch to his younger brother, Nate Diaz, who turned out to become an even bigger star than Nick. Despite being in his older brother's shadow for years, Nate was determined to build his own skyscraper and forever cemented his name in the MMA books. He put his name on the map when he appeared at the Ultimate Fighter TV show in 2007, where he became the winner by beating Manny Gambierian in the final. After signing with the UFC, Nate Diaz went on a rampage, running through opponents and finishing them with submissions. A year after he won the show, he faced Kurt Pellegrino in the fight where Nate showed everyone he was not any different than his older brother Nick. After securing a beautiful triangle choke, Nate started celebrating early while showing middle fingers to the crowd, displaying his wild nature and confidence. How could we not love such a gangster move? One Diaz was already enough on the MMA stage, while two Diaz fighters were too much for anyone to handle. Jason Miller learned that the hard way when he interrupted Jake Shields' interview moments after his victory against Dan Henderson. Shields is the Diaz's brother's training part, and the Stockton natives could not let it slide. Seconds after Miller's interruption, he was jumped by the brothers, who were eager to beat the hell out of him just for disrespecting their training partner.
Wow. Yeah, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. What the? Yeah. My God.
After the incident, we can assume that Miller regretted what he did and thought the same thing as Tony Montana in Scarface.
The fucking Diaz brothers, fuck them all. I buried those cockroaches.
Nate was slowly emerging from Nick's shadow by scoring spectacular performances in the octagon and winning fans' hearts with his unique behavior. When he fought Donald Cerrone, he showed in the bird mid-fight before beating him convincingly. However, winning fights and trashing opponents were still not earning the reputation of the superstar he deserved. Finally, when he fought Michael Johnson in December 2015, not only did Nate absolutely demolish the American on feet while slapping him a few times in the process, but he also made the most iconic post-fight speech that turned out to be his ticket to glory.
McGregor, you're taking everything I work for, I'm gonna fight you. You know what's the real fight? What's the real money fight is me. His
wish was granted, and now on 2 weeks' notice, Nate was scheduled to face Conor McGregor in a fight that nobody gave him a chance to win.
So you're a credit to the community.
Fuck you. Fuck you, Bell. I don't give a fuck.
Conor was the biggest star in the sport, and he was on fire, beating and knocking out everyone. Nate, on the other hand, although he was a great fighter too, he wasn't really prepping for the fight and took it on short notice. However, the Stockton native did not care and went out there like a man possessed. McGregor hit him with everything he got in the first round, and Nate kept coming back like a zombie and stalking him like Michael Myers. In the second, after wobbling the Irishman on the feet, he forced McGregor to turn into a wrestler who desperately tried a double leg takedown on Diaz. The Stockton native capitalized on that by putting the Irishman into deep submission, giving him the option to tap or nap. The crowd went wild. Nobody was giving him a chance to win, and here he was, emerging victorious. While this fight came as a surprise to many, Nate Diaz was not surprised at all.
I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
After the bout, Nate had another great victory against the former lightweight champion Anthony Pettis, and he submitted Tony Ferguson via guillotine, flexing his muscles even before Ferguson tapped. Despite Nate never winning the UFC belt, he'll remain one of the company's most popular fighters who fans always love to watch. The Diaz brothers are the true unicorns of the sport, who don't care who you are or where you're at. They will come to you, and they'll beat you up if you cross them in any way. They're the closest to real-life gangsters, and their fighting style is the closest you can get to a real-life fight.
Badass. I'm just kidding. That's the first word I can say, badass.
Fucking savage. Gangster. Gangster.
He's really tough.
Despite the mixed records and defeats, they will always be remembered as one of the most enjoyable athletes the sport has ever produced. That's all for today's video about the Diaz brothers. If you enjoyed the video and you want to see more content like this, please give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button to help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Starting small. Remember, every subscription gets us one step closer.